What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Black Rabbit Collective. Saturday, February 21st. We have a double header in store for you. I have a wonderful guest on the candidates, the Black Rabbit Jackson County Commissioner's primary race. We're doing a candidate series. We're sitting down with the candidates to actually get to know them on a personal level. And I have with me today Miss Marcia Almond. She's running for the Democratic seat for the Jackson County Commissioner's primary. Election day is March 3rd. Early voting is taking place right now. If Marcia touches your heart, you can grab your phone and run to the ballot right now and cast your vote for her. So I just want to thank Marcia for accepting my invitation and be willing to come on and reveal a little bit about herself with us. So thank you, Marcia.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am stoked to get to know you. Kind of the idea behind the podcast is really to get to know the candidates on a personal level. I understand from all my research that you have spent a large chunk of your life here in Jackson County.
I have. I've been here over half of my life. I've been here 38 years.
38 years. So, my first question that I have for you is if 1989 Marcia walked into Jackson County today, what is the one thing that she would be most surprised by that has changed? And then what would be something that she is happy has remained the same?
Uh, if 1989 Marcia walked in, there are so many more stoplights. There is more business on the main street. When I let's see, when I walked into Jackson County in 1989, I went to the work with the hospital. I started a lot of those changes that you will now see. And well, in 1989, when I got there, I started those changes that we see today. So, change. I'm one of those people that I'm open to change. I feel that if you don't adapt to it, then you're not going to survive in an environment. Every organism has to adapt to change in order to survive. So the change that I've seen has been a slow change. We've seen a little bit at the time. So I'm just trying to remember exactly what 1989 Silva looked like.
You have a
That's
very impressive resume. You really do. You're looking at your goals, going to Food Line just like everybody else. You have a very impressive resume. Your resume checks many boxes for the type of leader that I am looking for right now. Very impressive. But
excellent.
again, not necessarily looking at the candidate. I'm focused on my neighbor, right? So
Hmm.
tell me something that doesn't show up on your resume about you. Tell me something that doesn't
Oh,
show up on like the ballot box or on even on your professional resume. What do I need to know about you?
okay. What's not in writing is I have the ability to say no, but I also have the ability to compromise. In the end, I think we all want the same thing, and that's just the best outcome for the community. Um, and working with surgeons, of course, I was I had to be able to say no, and I had to be able to compromise because we were all working for the best outcome of the patient, and that translate into working for the best outcome for the county as well. Um, my neighbors in Forest Hills, they are mainly concerned with keeping Forest Hills a family friendly community. So as mayor, I had to work to make sure that their interests were taken into account. We've had some zoning issues here, and most of the municipality wants to keep our zoning as it is. And so far, that's what we've done. We keep getting threats, but that's what we did. You have to go with what the community wants.
They will let you know, right? They will let you know what they want.
They sure will.
It's our role to listen, right? We got to hear them. We got to
To
hear them
listen.
out. Um,
My motto is talk less, listen more.
ooh, I love that. Um, you early in life, it sounds like, chose a field of service. You have lived a life of service, right? From your time in the operating room to your time in retirement. What led you to that? What was that as like a young person? What was it inside of you that drew you towards? Because it's not like, uh, it's not something that everybody does. And you essentially have committed your life
Yeah.
to it.
I was a floundering college student that didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And somebody suggested that somebody suggested I just take this OR Tech course. And so it was a 6 month course. I mean, it was fast. It's now a 2 year course. But we did it in 6 months, and I found that I loved the OR. And so I was an OR Tech for 8 years, and then I went back to East Carolina. Had my credits that I'd had before, so I didn't have to take much, and got into the School of Nursing. That's a 3 year program with summers off. So that's what I did, and I went. I took a job after nursing school. I took a job working on the floor because I thought that's what you had to do to be a real nurse. And I had a gynecologist that I had scrubbed for a lot, and he was my own gynecologist, in fact. And he saw me on the floor and he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm just trying to get nursing experience." He said, "You have OR experience. Look at these people around you. They don't have OR experience, and you need to go back to the OR." So I resigned from the floor that day and started in the OR within days.
What was it about the high pressure situations of the operating room that appealed to you? Because you can get into
It's
nursing, there's many different way paths you can go.
There are. Uh, it's You have to have the ability to think on your feet, to assess quickly and implement quickly. Y- You have to be observant. You have to be able to listen to one thing in one ear and the other thing in another ear. You have to keep up with what's going on that field if you're circulating, so that when a surgeon says something, you know that he's going to ask you for something in just a second. You're already on your feet going, doing it. Uh, there were certain curse words I could hear, and I knew if it was a bleeding, another curse word would mean I've cut the bowel. So it's just you have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to listen and act at the same time.
It's a big skill set. Did
It
that
is.
come natural? Being quick on your feet? Was that something that you've always a skill that you kind of
I,
had and you fine
I've
tuned it or
always, yeah, I've always been able to think on my feet. Um, yeah, I have a I have a pretty high IQ, and I was sort of pushed to always, to be ready for to observe and be ready. And I'm a constant reader, a constant learner, and I think that's what helps me to be able to assess quickly is because I know I've just learned so much about so many things just from reading books. I've been a reader since I was, I guess, 9, and I go to the library and check out books on my own. The library was 2 weeks from my house, 2 blocks from my house. I could just walk to it. And I go and get a book, and then I go back and get another one the same day. So, yeah, I spend a lot of my time reading.
Being in the operating room for so long, and observing, being a natural observer, as you identified, and spending so much time in the operating room, and then also, um, in this line of work, what has changed over time, as a culture for us? What has changed in the way that we care for people? Because there has been a bit of a shift. Like, how do we care for people differently? How has that evolved?
Well, science has evolved. Uh, the way we do things, we went from open bellies to laparoscopic procedures. We went from open knees to arthroscopic procedures, and there are so many things now that can be done through a scope. With minimally invasive surgery has come a long way, and now we've got robots that do it. I didn't really get into the robotic parts of surgery. I'm not even sure I would have liked it. 'Cause I like doing things myself. I like seeing what's going on, and in the robot, you can't always see exactly what's going on, or I couldn't when I was introduced to it. Uh, changes changes between doctors and nurses. I think doctors have increased their social skills since I'm sorry, Mr.
It's fine.
Spam is calling. Let me cut him off. That was a lot.
We are simply just streaming this so it's on there. I'm going to be pulling all the clips out later. Everything's good.
Okay.
We are casual over here. There is nothing to worry about. I promise you that.
I
I
can't block
promise
Mr.
you
Spam enough.
that.
So where were we? I think relationships between doctors and nurses have changed. Um, as women's rights have changed because nurses were historically women, doctors were historically men, and there was that culture that you had to deal with as well as your work culture. So I think nursing has come a long way. And doctors have also come a long way with what they're able to do. But the trust issue between doctors and nurses, I think, is a lot better. I think doctors have come to respect a nurse's role a lot more than they did. And doctors and nurses become friends as a result of that.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that you kind of identify as a lifelong learner, constantly learning
Yes.
through books and other things. Um, can you think of a recent time where you may have learned something new and that led you to change your mind on a particular issue? Could be big or small.
Yeah, I learn something new every day. I've found even the issues that we're talking about today in the campaign, that the next day there's something else that you learn, and you may change your thoughts on it. Uh, Somebody that I've really really learned from a lot as mayor was Mike Poston, our head of the planning department in Jackson County. I learned more from Mike just every time he would come and speak to us, or every time I would go see him and talk to him about something. He is so knowledgeable, and I've tried to pick up that knowledge. Who else have I learned? I've learned from the candidates that are from the other candidates that are running. I learned a lot from Mayor Tim Radford on how to become a mayor, and I learned a lot from Robert Reich. I learned a lot from Cox Richardson. I learned a lot from reading Atlantic articles in the Atlantic, and yeah, those are pretty much more liberal places to learn things. But when I look at some of the other things, the most recent thing that I saw that impressed me so much was the James Talarico interview with Colbert.
Yes.
He just left me awestruck because he hit every single thing on every nail on the head. He nailed it. And he's right that this Christian nationalism movement is a political movement. It is not a religious movement.
He got me where he said the culture wars are a smokescreen because the
Hmm.
real fight in this country is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom.
Exactly. Yes.
And there was a lovely
That's where the real fight
Streisand
is.
effect associated with that, where they didn't want them to watch it, and they ended up getting like 10 million views, and
I
everybody in the
know.
country saw it.
That made everybody want to see it even more.
Yeah.
So I think CBS is in trouble with this.
Mhm.
I think they're making the wrong choices.
You talked a lot about like having to respond and react on the fly, being quick on your feet. Um, who in your like early career were like leaders that you looked up to, whether professionally or outside of your professional world? Who were the people that you like admired and looked up to and kind of like saw something, like saw qualities in? I want some of that. I'm going to put some of that in my life. They carry themselves in a certain type of way. I want some of that. Who were those people and what were those qualities?
We'll start with my mom. Her hero was Eleanor Roosevelt. And if anybody knows about Eleanor Roosevelt, you know what an amazing person she was. Uh, as I mean, she taught me empathy. Her favorite saying, if we saw anyone who was disabled, was, kids used to be so cruel. She would just say, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." And so that that was her preaching. Uh, she taught me manners, which come in handy. She taught me grace. I hope I may have forgotten some of that. She taught me to stand up for myself. Another hero was my father-in-law, and I loved listening to his stories. He was a lieutenant colonel on a ship in the Pacific during World War II. I also had six uncles during World War II. One died, but he would just tell his stories. He'd tell his stories about being in the Navy. He'd tell stories about his patients. He was a dentist in Andrews and Robbinsville. He'd tell stories about stories that patients had told him, and it's just stories about mountain life in general. And I could sit there and listen to him for hours. But all of his stories imparted some wisdom, and it was wisdom that I got from him. Uh, that pretty much, and my husband. My husband has taught me steadfastness. He's taught me, he's my best friend. So he's taught me what it's like to have a real best friend that's going to be there. His best friends can change over the years, but there's one that just is always there. Oh, Billy and Billy Noel and Jean Harris and I worked together for, I guess, the last 10 years that I was at Harris. They taught me humor because, we all have the same sort of dry sense of humor. And it was just such a pleasure being able to express that humor with two people who expressed it the same way. Uh, I guess that's about it on the heroes. I'm sure there are more. Barack Obama, I think, is a hero. Michelle Obama is the most amazing person I've ever seen. Um, but I don't know them personally.
What
And
about
there's so many more.
those leadership qualities that you see in all those people? What was like as you kind of started taking on leadership roles professionally and started like taking on more? Um, what was one of the hardest leadership lessons that you kind of had to learn on the fly? You're like, oh, that just hit you, you know?
On the fly. I'm having to think about that.
Yeah. I know that's kind
Uh,
of strange. It just kind of like hit me because we were like talking about being on like a, having to react and respond on the fly. And I'm constantly learning lessons on the fly because in my role at work, I never know, just like the OR, I never know what's going to walk in the door. I never know
yeah,
what the day is going to unfold. I have an outline, a plan for my day, and it's never that. Right. The day
yeah,
before, I write out a draft on everything I'm going to do, and it never happens. I'm constantly learning on the fly and constantly
yes.
having to change the way I approach things depending on what that situation is. So I guess like some of that on the fly, or like just like maintaining composure. Like how do you maintain that composure during those difficult times?
Maintaining composure really takes a lot of self-discipline. Um, on the fly, there's always you have a when I was over supervisor, you have a schedule that you go by. You have surgeons who want that schedule to go in their way. They want it to run and keep going, no downtime. Well, you've got to have some, but having that emergency C-section that comes in and just throws your schedule all to pieces. Having that open fracture that you have to get into and might have to bump somebody else's case. Things like that. You have to and knowing what is an emergency and what isn't. There are some you have to think about. Those are just urgent. But a truly emergent case is just emergent and you have to do it right then. You have to find a way to do it right then. Even if you have to hurry somebody up, get out. Let's turn this over. Let's get this patient in. Uh, when I was OR supervisor in Murphy, and it was strange how that came about. Um, we had a patient who had an abruptive placenta. I was on call. I was the only person there that knew how to scrub, and getting in there and getting that patient in. And I was supposedly 20 minutes. I lived in Andrews, and this hospital is in Hayesville or Peachtree. And somehow I got there in time to get that patient on the table and get into her, get that baby out. I mean, she almost bled to death. I've never seen so much blood. I washed it out of the OR cushions for hours. But we saved that baby and we saved that mother. So those are just the kind of emergent situations that you have to deal with, whether you're at home and have to go do it, or whether if you're there at work and have to find a way to do it. It just you have to work around. You have to find a way to get this done because this is emergent. This needs to happen right now. And I'm sure that's the kind of things that people during Helene experienced as well. We were so fortunate not to have such damage here in Jackson County. I watched I watched the weather map and I kept thinking it's going to hit us in southern Jackson County head on. And this whole municipality is filled with trees. How many could, I mean, there's so many trees that could come down, so many lives that could be taken. I don't know how we would have survived if the water had come down like it did in Yancey County and in Madison County, because all of our roads have a downhill. Sorry, I talk with my hands. All of our roads have a way for it to go downhill. So if it hit the top, if it was that heavy here, even though our houses are pretty elevated, it could have taken houses right down along with it. Um, I attended every Helene Recovery Forum that was offered. I was on Southwestern Commission at the time, and there were many hurricane recovery forums through them and through every council of government in Western North Carolina. We would come together and try to find solutions and determine how we could do better next time. What were our problems this time? Which the first problem was communication. We had no internet. We had no cable TV, or some had internet if they were. I had no internet, no cable TV, and we came together to try to find a better way to do it next time. And if it might be 100-year storm, but given our climate change, it might not be as well. These hurricanes are getting stronger every time one comes. Every year they get stronger. We didn't have a bad one last year, but we could have a bad one this year. The warming of the waters is causing these hurricanes to just become stronger and stronger. We've never had a hurricane of this size hit Western North Carolina. We had something in 1916 that was close to it, and but it wasn't as devastating as this. Hendersonville uh, township, the council there and the county, I think, working with them, had a great plan in place. I learned about it when I went to a North Carolina Legal Municipalities meeting where we could attend different seminars, and they gave a seminar on how they did it. And it's because in 1916, Hendersonville wrote a plan for what happens again. And they were able to follow that same plan that was written after that 1916 flood. So that would be who I would look to try to get a plan to handle it in Jackson County.
It sure seems like we're having, outside of this year, we're having 100-year storms every year.
Yes.
Um, are we prepared? Do you think we need to address our plan? Would you be contacting Hendersonville once you get in,
I
just to kind of
probably
like start working on something?
I probably would be, because we need places for people to evacuate to,
Yep.
and whether that's before the storm or when their house is destroyed. We need places that we can house people and feed people and keep people warm or cool, whichever the case may be. That's a service that we should offer
And
to,
as far as
to
like
our
natural
residents.
disasters, hurricanes, things like that, what about co-purple? Do you think co-purple falls in that same line of response?
I think so.
Yeah.
Anything where people are going to have to leave their homes.
I'd like to know how we deal with conflict. Okay. Specifically, like when it's first, let's say people that you respect, people that you look up to or admire or work alongside, and they have different views. How do we approach it? How do we um, communicate in a healthy way? How do we come to a solution or a compromise?
That's just it. Compromise. First, you listen. I mean, really listen, not just hear. And then you start compromising one little issue at a time. You can't address everything. It's just overwhelming. It's too much, and nobody is going to be open to listening to your thoughts on it if you just bombard them with everything you think they're wrong on. So you start with one little thing at a time. Maybe take them somewhere, show them something until you until they kind of come around to something that you can work with. You may not get everything you want, but you can get some of what you want. And I think that's what's wrong with our state and federal politicians now. They're so divided, and actually local because it's working its way down. They're so divided that they can't agree on anything. This isn't a Ronald Reagan, Tip O'Neill culture. This is a my side and you're wrong and you're wrong, and they cannot reach something that serves the American people.
How do we move beyond the divisiveness, specifically like locally? Like, how do we reconnect with the community that is present? Like, I feel like a lot of the divisiveness and separation is like we're told that it's supposed to be that way. But when things happen here in Jackson County, um, the community does respond. Everybody here, for the most part, wants things to be better for Jackson County.
Mhm.
I mean, we had our fundraiser last Saturday, Marshall, for the little polar plunge down there at the Silva Pool, and like
Mhm.
75 people showed up in February to jump into a freezing cold swimming pool. You know, people in our community care. And so, like, how do we connect those dots back to bridge unity instead of divisiveness? Like, how do we remind everyone, or how do we um bring it back in, because you've been here for so long that you know what it was like when we did take care of each other. Marcia, you
Yes,
remember it.
I think be kind to your neighbors. Be kind to the people that you don't even know. That's where it starts. Um, Look at how Eli Hashimi got everything together for hurricane victims. She didn't have just Democrats going down and giving her supplies. She didn't have just Republicans. She didn't have just independents. Everyone came together as a community to help their neighbor. So that was kindness. And we can extend it to each other face to face too. It doesn't have to be just when you're giving to somebody that is over there and you can't see them. Look at your neighbor in the eye and be kind. Listen to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a hugger and a lover. Every single person I see, I give them a hug at work all day long, and I tell them I love them all day long
Yeah.
because we just need to be reminded. We need to be reminded. But I do feel like the community, the town has a hunger for community, right? Like the town has a hunger for community, and we hit the mark on many things, like the events downtown and things like that, and like we hit the mark on many things, but um I think that people want to do more and want to be more kind to their neighbors. Um, but they need like a little bit of structure and a little bit of like something greater than ourselves to bring us together. And I want to be a part of it, but I don't know what the solution is myself.
I know we shouldn't have to wait for a natural disaster.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
It's,
saying. Like we could just start tomorrow. We can start right now. We can start
yeah,
today,
let's just do that.
right now.
Let's do that.
All right. Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Marcia Clark and Steve Steen have declared Jackson County a community of kindness. Put it in the
Marcia
history book.
Almond.
Marcia
Marcia
Almond.
Almond.
Sorry, Marcia Almond. Steve Steen and Marcia Almond have declared Jackson County a community of kindness.
Yes, I think that's what we need to go with.
What what are some critical values of a county commissioner chair? Like what characteristics does the person that gets that position need to have in order for us to achieve some of the things that me and you just talked about, and then also for like the county to grow at a healthy pace and everything that comes with that?
Characteristics, I think, include some transparency, include being able to listen to people, being able to talk to people, um, empathy. What else? Being able to compromise and collaborate. My husband's pointing at my ear here. Being able to compromise with people, collaborate with people. You may give something in order to get something, as long as it's something above board. Honesty, dignity, and the willingness to give dignity to other people. Um, there's so much. I mean, so much that can that they have to do,
Sure.
and they won't even know it until until they. I won't even know what I'm going to have to do until I actually get in that situation. One thing I will do is I will listen to people and I will research if I don't understand what they're saying. I'll research it. I'll talk to experts about it and I'll come back with an answer.
When you're
But
approaching some of these problems, when you're approaching some of these conflicts, and you're attempting to find a solution, both in your like past in the OR and things, and then moving forward in this county chair position, how do you find the balance between the data, like the information, the data, and the human side, the human relationship, the human perspective? Because sometimes they're not the same.
yeah, you talk to people, find out how they think it's going to affect them. Um, Sometimes they are misinformed. I want to find out more about the problem and then be able to identify if they're misinformed. And if they are misinformed, I want to comfort them by telling them the right information. Take Well, are you going to ask me about data centers?
Um,
Because I won't say this if you are.
no, you can go ahead and say it. I'm not.
Okay. Like everyone's worried about data centers now. Canton has passed a moratorium. moratoriums have to be renewed yearly. And if you let it fall, there it is. You know, there's an opening there. If you zone it, you don't have to keep passing in a moratorium each year. So I think the only answer to not, if you don't want data centers in the county, then zone it so that they can't come here.
Mhm. Do you think that that's as urgent as a matter for us in Jackson County as it is for the folks in Haywood County, considering the
They're going to go somewhere.
yeah.
So there's a good chance it'll come here next.
Mhm.
There's already one in Cherokee County. They're wanting one in Haywood. If they can't get one in Haywood, then we're likely to be the next target.
How do we combat the need for them? Like, they're building them because we're using the technology that requires them, people, humans, you know? So, like, how do we combat the need, supply and
That's
demand?
that's a question I would have to research.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is.
I don't either.
Because like everyone's on their phones, and in most of these data centers, the cost and the purpose or the need is so high for them because of this AI revolution that's taking place.
Yes.
And from what my research and what I've, read about it, much of that has to do with like the generation of images and videos. Like if I'm trying to make a video or make an image using the AI tool, that's what's consuming the most data. And that's what's requiring them. So everyone's like making pictures on their phone, making silly memes and making whatever. And so like I'm just trying to wrap my head around, if everyone's participating in this thing, then there's a demand. The system that we live in, the capitalistic system that we live in, only tells me that these data centers are going to come. They're going to be in need. So like I want to try, and I don't know the answers either. These are conversations that I've just been having in my world about the topic, is that there's a demand for it. So we have to address the demand, or else like they're going to be everywhere. And I don't, the AI thing is much of a bubble, like the .com bubble, the stuff grew so fast, so quick. That
I'd like to see it slow
I don't know
down.
that it's sustainable.
Yeah, exactly.
But people are still using their devices. Like everyone that doesn't want a data center they're not handing me their iPhone. They're not turning in their
And they're
iPhone.
not going to.
They're not going to. So where's the compromise? That's what and this is all hypothetical. This is all hypothetical, like.
I think that's up to the capitalists to find a way to do this without threatening everybody around them.
Specifically the environment.
That's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to them to try to do that differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we can live perfectly fine without AI for a while until they get that figured out.
Yeah.
But that's on them to figure it out.
So I think a lot of it, like just in this me and you chatting, is education. Like, hey, if you're actively pressing those buttons on your phone and generating images and making videos using that AI tool, you are contributing to this problem of data centers. And so like teaching the kids how to use the tools that they have in a way that won't put such a demand for the product. Like how do we teach the kids to not use it, or use it in a more healthy way that doesn't put such a demand on the system that then requires a data center? And I'm no expert. I don't know anything about this stuff. It's just things that I kick around.
Using AI responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
Just creating little things that pop and buzz and smile at you
for no reason.
For no reason. It's like, what have you contributed to society with this? Think about that. What have you contributed? Did this change anybody's life for the better? uh,
I think that's a
it's
great intention. That's a great way to look at it. Is what I am doing right now beneficial to humanity? Is it
yes,
contributing to my community or my people in a positive way? I love that.
yes. If you're going to create something on, be a Rembrandt. Don't be a guy drawing stick figures. Be a Rembrandt.
Definitely ties into like the hot topic, because that's a hot topic right now. What you said, what
Yeah,
you
it
brought
is.
up data centers to me just now, and I'll tell you, Marcia, that is the most emailed topic from listeners of this program. That is the people have emailed me the most saying ask them about them. And I'm kind of
That's about
waiting
data
until we get into
centers.
the issues down the road after the primary. But
Yeah.
um so big topics, right?
Mhm.
Controversial topics, topics that people have um end up on both sides of. How do you as a leader decide what hills are worth dying on?
I would decide what hills are worth dying on if it affects the majority of the county and how it affects the majority of the county. Some issues are just petty and just have no real significant gain to them. That's not a hill you die on. This library issue, that's a hill I would die on because it, what they did, what they are trying to do, is unconstitutional. They're trying to bend the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, and it's going to lead us to lawsuits. And quite frankly, I don't care if it does because we're doing the wrong thing. Because that U.S. Constitution and that North Carolina Constitution are our playbooks, and we need to stick to the playbook. That's just my opinion on it.
That's the hill you're going to die on. I love it.
That's
I love it.
I'm
I
going to
wish they would
stick
have died
to
on
that
that hill too.
Constitution. Yes, I know.
That leads me to a
I'm going to
topic that
die on that constitutional hill.
that's come up with both my prior guests, and that's patience. You know, do you consider yourself a patient person? Many folks in the county feel like a lot of the decisions that have taken place over the last 12 to 24 months were too swift, and there wasn't enough research. They weren't thoughtful. They didn't have enough information. How do you approach things that feel like they are moving too fast when you got to make a decision on something? um how do we
Uh,
pump the
like,
brakes a little bit, you know,
like I
and make
said,
an educated decision?
I'm going to read everything I can about it, and I'm also going to consult experts about it before I make a decision. And that brings me to something else too with what's going on right now is that when we get estimates in the budget of what something's going to cost, why are they always lower than it actually turns out to be? So I want good information. I don't want just being fed something I want to hear. And then I want to consult experts to advise me. I may have my thoughts on it, but I want somebody else's thoughts on it too, to just make sure that I'm making the right decision.
And those estimates weren't lower, they're significantly lower
Yeah.
than the bills that came in.
Yes, they are.
What's
The
the best piece
school,
of it?
the school, $30 million over budget for the school.
Crazy.
I
And
know.
then opening up, taking it on $8 million of interest, you know, with very little, just
Hmm.
very swiftly, without much, you know, looking into how we're going to pay for this.
Exactly. There'll be another tax.
Get ready, buckle down,
Get ready.
get your
I need
checkbooks
your
out,
help.
ladies and gentlemen. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received in regards to how to treat people?
Be kind. Be empathetic. Use your manners. See, all that came from my mother and my grandmothers and my dad. Just be a good human. That's all. Life life lessons from early childhood. Hopefully.
What year did you retire, Marsha?
I retired. Well, I retired and then I went back to work. I retired in 2011. I had to retire early because I had a 3-level spinal fusion. That's what nursing does to you. Get your knees in your back. And I stayed at home for a few years, and then well, a couple of years, and then I started volunteering at the Good Samaritan Clinic as just helping out with documenting things like that. We were meeting one time a week. They were getting together on Tuesday nights, and I would do the documentation from the doctor's notes. And then their nurse resigned, and they weren't expecting it. And Dr. Trigg was leading up the center. He helped start this clinic, and he was still there when it closed. And I loved working with Dr. Dave Trigg. David Trigg is great, but he asked me if I would please take her place, and so I did. So I worked there until Blue Ridge Health took over, and they really didn't uh, use RNs. They used CMAs, but I was the nurse case manager, and I was responsible for getting. My job was to find care for people that we couldn't provide. I had one patient that had liver cancer and was pretty much scheduled to die because he had no insurance. All of our patients had no insurance. And I found a surgeon in Charlotte who was a liver specialist who removed that tumor for him at no charge. The hospital gave him charity care. I know another man here who had a motorcycle wreck up on Tail the Dragon and just broke his leg all to pieces. They airlifted him to Knoxville and fixed his leg in Knoxville, sent him back home. Well, he was walking with a cane and crutches still after a couple of years. And he was a patient in our clinic. And I talked to him about his leg, how painful it was, and what had happened. And I said, let me see if I can help. So I had worked at Mission for a year before, after I retired. Well, after I left Harris, I worked at Mission for a year. And I knew the trauma surgeons. And so I called Mission Trauma, the orthopedic mission part of Mission Trauma, and asked them to see him for free, which they did. And then they fixed his leg for free, and he got charity care from Mission. It was not HCA at the time, because he's walking around like you and I now. And there's so many patients that I can tell you stories about. It's sometimes all you have to do is just call somebody and ask, would you do this? And very often you get a good answer. You get a positive answer.
It's amazing what will happen by simply asking. I don't know if you ever
By
have
simply
known anybody in
asking.
like the sales field or whatever, but like closing a sale, most salespeople just don't ask for the sale. You're like, would you like to buy this?
Yeah,
After you give them the pitch or whatever, you got to close the deal. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I
Oh,
went into it. I went into a business downtown a couple of days ago. Had my dog out and was talking to one of the business owners. It's a place that not many people go into. but I just stopped in there and I met the elderly gentleman that owned it. He has a reputation of being a bit of a curmudgeon, but I liked him. And I asked him to vote for me. And he said, I will. And you know why? I said, now why? He said, because you're the only person that has asked me to. So you have to ask the curmudgeons too.
We get so lost in the busyness of life that we don't even ask for what we want.
Yes. And I enjoy talking to this man. I enjoy talking to the curmudgeons. I'm married to one. Don't tell him that. He can be
He
a
might
curmudgeon.
watch this later.
Oh, I call him curmudgeon all the time.
Do you?
Mostly about getting new pets. He's a curmudgeon about me getting any new pets.
What was the last pet you got? How many are over there?
Ozzy, come here. Ozzy, where are you? Come here. Come on. I know you can't get up here. Come on. Come on. Come on.
So cute.
This is Ozzy.
Ozzy. He's so adorable.
I know. Yes.
So adorable. Ozzy can just hang there the rest of the episode. We'll be wrapping up shortly, Marcia.
Okay. He likes that.
You retired, not a few years ago, and we live in one of the most beautiful parts of the country. I'm sure you would agree. One of the most beautiful parts of the country. So much going on year round. You can get outdoors. You can go to the casino. You can go to ball games at Western.
Yeah.
So many options to choose from. Yet you chose to continue to serve the community, right? When you could have easily just put your feet up and enjoyed retirement.
I don't like retirement. I have to have something, a goal. I have to have something to make me get out of bed in the morning. To make me maybe put down that tablet. Not read. There was right after COVID, I was reading a book and a half a day. Just novels, just constantly reading. To put down that book and go outside. What was I even talking about? I have to have something.
Why you continued your working further?
I have to have something to do, or just curl up and do nothing but read books and stay on social media. And
do you read on your tablet?
I do.
Okay.
I do, because I can lie in bed and read it at night, and it doesn't disturb him because I don't have to have the light on.
Yeah, we do too in our house. I do it because I like to take notes and write things down on the tablet right in there where I can see right inside.
Yeah.
I asked you that question because there's just I told you I wasn't going to get into any issues, but there's just two things that are kind of on my mind. One of them kind of relates to the Highway 107 project, and it also kind of ties into a bit of the digital divide that I think children in Western North Carolina experience. And that is livable wage jobs. Me and my partner, we're independent voters, but we're like the GOP's wet dream because when we met, she was the assistant manager at a Dollar General, and I was homeless. And now she's found herself an excellent career in the tech field. She works from home, makes a bunch of money where I can afford to just work at the nonprofit downtown. And I don't know that opportunity, what her experience is necessarily, as far as leveling up your career into a beyond livable wage tech job, and this for students in this community coming out of our town. I don't know that the same opportunity is available. And so with the Highway 107 project, how do we ensure that livable wage jobs are available? Is there
Uh,
even anything we can do?
well, people are going to. I suggest not getting like not allowing businesses that don't pay a livable wage. Just sort of discouraging them from building here
Yeah.
because people need to make money. Now, as a county, we can't set a minimum wage here. That has to come from the state. Um, we can certainly push our legislators to make that happen. And I don't mind pushing those guys at all. I know quite a few of them. And I'll just come up and tell them what I want. They don't always listen. Um, they often don't listen. But if you keep repeating it, just keep on repeating it. And I know the Democrats are more likely to make that happen than the Republicans are. Maybe a tax break for businesses that do pay a living wage. I worked with Circles of Hope for a while, and Ron Robinson went out and found all the businesses that paid a living wage, which was the hospital, the casino, oh, what else?
Maybe the university.
Yeah, the university. Um, so he went out and found these, and some of the businesses in town, and
Mhm.
those are the only businesses that he would send people to work. The other businesses, no, if you don't pay a living wage, then you don't deserve to have these employees. And Circles Pope taught these people how to go about getting a job, how to fill out a resume, how to budget a little bit. It just taught them life skills that they didn't have, and then found them jobs. But I do think we need to encourage businesses, and that's something that with economic development, that if we're going to get if we're going to get new businesses in, let's make sure they're willing to pay a living wage before we even ask them to come.
When it comes to our most vulnerable populations, what do you think's one opportunity we have in Jackson County? Like, what's missing?
Well, obviously, a homeless shelter is missing. That that takes a lot of planning. You have to have your men's section, your women's section, your family section, and it's going to require a decent piece of land and a fairly large building. But there's something we can do right now. We can work with churches, facilitate with churches to at least provide shelter for people during extreme weather events. And for the food insecure, we already fund a lot of the nonprofits here. So let's coordinate them all so that meals are provided 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. It may not, it may be at this place one day, at that place one day, and at this place one day, but they don't have two of them doing Monday and nobody doing Wednesday. I think we need to coordinate it so that there is food availability at least 6 days a week.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'd like to see a little more collaboration between the nonprofits.
Well,
Working,
that's the point.
yeah, working with them right in it right now. I'll tell you that, like, we try, everybody tries, but everybody is so busy with their own mission, right? Just because your resources are so limited that your day is just filled with just doing your job, doing your basic job, meeting the needs of the people. And so if we could like somehow structurally organize better together to fill some of those gaps, I see an opportunity there.
Yes, that's exactly what I was getting at. To bring these organizations together and let them figure out a way to make sure that there's food availability every day.
Yeah. Um, I'm going to start asking you a couple of wrap up questions because I don't want to keep you too long past the hour that you committed to. What is your favorite way to enjoy Jackson County's natural beauty? What do you do? Is it a drive on the parkway? Is it a back road? Is it a hike? What do you do?
I like the back roads. Um, yeah, the parkway's fine, but I like going into those little corners where there are people. You see people and houses and see, I like architecture as well as natural beauty. Um, and it could be a little shack or it could be a mansion. It doesn't matter. I just like seeing how people live. Uh, what was the other part of the question?
Um, yeah, what do you appreciate about Jackson County's beauty? I think you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking there was a second part.
Where do you, what's your favorite way to enjoy Jackson County's
Yes.
beauty?
I like driving through the mountains, and I like in the fall get some little back road, and the leaves are just starting to fall, and they just dance across the road in front of you. I think that's wonderful.
You're on one of those Sunday drives. Who's driving? You or Skip?
If he's with me, then he's driving because if I drive, he tells me how to do it, and it just gets on my last nerve. But I have a little low to the ground car, and it's got a big engine. So I love driving by myself
When nobody's looking.
with nobody telling me to slow down, nobody telling me to turn the music down or what kind of music they want to listen to. I love driving. I just want to do it alone.
How about tell me one hobby or one interest that Marcia has that is not related to books? Because you told me that already. Books, politics, or medicine. Give me a hobby. Give me an interest.
Oh
What do you?
gosh,
I know. I took all the stuff you like away.
I know. There's got to be something. I like porch sitting.
Porch sitting.
I like porch sitting. I just like sitting with a friend on the porch and gabbing about everything that's going on in our lives.
When you're
I
feeling
like
burned
traveling.
out. When you're feeling
Yeah,
burned out, you're traveling.
traveling is my favorite thing to do. My absolute favorite. I love
When
new
you get
places. I love meeting new cultures. So we
when you
haven't
get
traveled too
burned
much
out a
this
little
year.
bit, what's one thing that kind of brings you back? What do you do? What do you do to reset?
I will binge watch a TV show, something that takes my mind completely off of anything else I've done during the day. And that's why I stay up late because I can't. I just want to reach the conclusion. Um, what else do I do? I wrote this down. And I know that was the one thing that. Oh, I get a massage for sure,
Ooh,
but that's only monthly, and that's to keep my back from spasming. I sleep. I like to sleep late. I like to keep my family close. My son's in Salt Lake City. I talk to him on the phone regularly. We can talk for a couple hours sometimes. My daughter comes comes over regularly. If she comes over for something like, it's snowing, do you want to come over here? Because we have a fireplace, and she'll stay a week. She brings the cats, settles in, likes being home. And she's here in Silva. So I like keeping my family close. It should be, hopefully, we'll be going to Utah in the next couple of months.
Awesome. I have one final question for you, Marcia,
Okay.
and then I'll let you run. I'm an independent, unaffiliated voter. I think statistics will say that most of these elections are decided by unaffiliated voters. Why should an unaffiliated voter vote in the Democratic primary?
Because I think unaffiliated voters have a reason that they want to be unaffiliated. But I do think that a lot of unaffiliated persons lean a little more left. They may be moderate, they may be a little bit left, they may be a little bit right. But I think you just have to look at the choices, because the right has become so far right. Look at the choices and go with what you think is going to be best for your community. I can't really tell you how to vote. I could just tell you what to look for.
Thank you, Marcia. And thank you for being my neighbor in this community. I love having people like you as neighbors in this town.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share, or how can people connect with you if they would like to ask you a follow-up question? How can they find you?
Well, I've got a Facebook. My Facebook account is Marcia Jones Almond. I've got Marcia Almond for County Chair Facebook page. I've got a website, marciaalmond.com. I have on the website, you can find my email. On the Facebook page, you can find an email. I think there's probably a phone number too. As long as you don't come up spam, I'll answer it. And if you do come up spam, leave me a message. I'll get back to you.
Marcia, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to having you back after the primary as we lead into election season.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been enjoyable.
No problem. We will stay in touch. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back on Wednesday with another candidate. Catch y'all later.